The Sign of Four, 1890. Ep.2, The Pearl Mystery. Welcome back, detective friend. Last episode, you witnessed Holmes's struggle with cocaine addiction and helped redirect his brilliant mind toward a more constructive challenge. Now let's meet the mysterious young woman whose arrival may have saved Holmes from himself. Picture the scene. You're seated in the familiar sitting room at 221B Baker Street. Holmes has transformed completely. His eyes are sharp, his posture alert, and his mind clearly focused on the problem ahead. Watson sits with his notebook ready, while you occupy the chair closest to the fireplace, positioned perfectly to observe both the client and Holmes's detective methods. Mrs. Hudson shows in a young woman of perhaps 27, modestly but neatly dressed. She carries herself with quiet dignity, but you can see tension in her shoulders and worry in her dark eyes. What's your first impression, detective friend? What details about her appearance or demeanor might be significant for the case ahead? Miss Mary Morstan, Mrs. Hudson announces, then quietly withdraws. Holmes gestures to the chair opposite his own. Please, Miss Morstan, I understand you have a matter of some urgency? Mary Morstan sits carefully, clutching a small package in her gloved hands. Mr. Holmes, I hardly know where to begin. The situation is so extraordinary that I fear you might not believe me. Miss Morstan, Holmes says gently, in our profession we've learned that the extraordinary often proves more believable than the mundane. Please share your story without fear of skepticism. What do you think, detective friend? Why might someone hesitate to tell their story to a detective? What does this suggest about the nature of her problem? Mary takes a deep breath. It concerns my father, Captain Arthur Morstan of the 34th Bombay Infantry. He disappeared 10 years ago, under circumstances that have never been explained. Watson leans forward with interest. Disappeared? Were the military authorities unable to trace him? That's just it, Dr. Watson. Officially, my father was granted leave to visit me in London. He arrived on December 3rd, 1878, and I met him at the Langham Hotel. We spent a lovely evening together. He seemed in excellent health and spirits. The next morning, he was gone. His room was empty, his belongings left behind, and he was never seen again. Holmes steeples his fingers. And the official investigation? The police suggested he might have taken his own life due to financial difficulties or mental distress. But Mr. Holmes, my father was planning our future together. He spoke of retiring from the army, of finding a small house where we could live together. Does that sound like a man contemplating suicide? This raises an important question for you, detective friend. What assumptions might authorities make about a missing person that could lead them away from the truth? Holmes nods thoughtfully. Indeed not. But you mentioned the situation has become even more extraordinary? Mary's hands tremble slightly as she unwraps her package. Every year since his disappearance, on the anniversary of that terrible day, I receive one of these. She reveals a lustrous, perfectly round pearl, gleaming white with hints of pink in the light. Watson gasps. Good heavens, that's worth a considerable sum. I've received 6 of them now, Mary continues. Always delivered anonymously, always on December 3rd, never with any message or explanation. And today, she produces a letter from her purse. This arrived. Holmes examines the letter with his magnifying glass. The paper is of Indian manufacture, though the writing is distinctly European. Watson, detective friend, what do you make of the handwriting? What details about handwriting do you think might be significant, detective friend? Consider everything from pen pressure to letter formation to spacing. Watson studies the letter. It appears educated, but there's a slight tremor. Perhaps nerves or age or the after effects of tropical disease, Holmes finishes. Very good, Watson. Miss Morstan, what does the letter say? Mary reads aloud. Be at the 3rd pillar from the left outside the Lyceum Theatre tonight at 7 o'clock. If you are distrustful, bring 2 friends. You are a wronged woman and shall have justice. Do not bring police. If you do, all will be in vain. Your unknown friend. The room falls silent as the implications sink in. Then Holmes speaks. Miss Morstan, this letter suggests that someone knows what happened to your father and is prepared to provide answers, but only under very specific conditions. What's your analysis, detective friend? Why would someone wait 10 years to come forward? And why the elaborate precautions about police involvement? I'm frightened, Mary admits quietly. What if this is some kind of trap? What if whoever took my father has decided I know too much? Or, Holmes counters, what if someone who has been silent for 10 years has finally decided the truth must come out? Miss Morstan, the pearls suggest you have not been forgotten, quite the opposite. Someone has been watching over you, ensuring your financial security. This is an excellent deduction, detective friend, but what questions does it raise? If someone cares enough to send valuable pearls, why the decade of silence? Watson checks his pocket watch. It's already past 2 o'clock. If we're to meet this mysterious benefactor tonight, we need to prepare carefully. Holmes stands and begins pacing, always a sign of rapid thinking. Indeed. Detective friend, this case presents several fascinating elements. A vanished army officer, anonymous gifts of considerable value, a decade of silence followed by sudden contact, and elaborate security measures suggesting either guilt or danger. What troubles me most, Mary says, is the phrase wronged woman. What wrong has been done to me beyond losing my father? And how can this unknown person promise justice after so many years? Excellent question, detective friend. What do you think? Could there be more to Captain Morstan's disappearance than simple death or desertion? Holmes suddenly stops pacing. Miss Morstan, I must ask some potentially difficult questions. Did your father ever mention any unusual friendships, business partnerships, or discoveries during his time in India? Well, Mary hesitates. He did occasionally mention a colleague, Captain Sholto. They served together in the Andaman Islands. Father said they had been through quite an adventure together, though he never provided details. Captain Sholto, Holmes exclaims. Watson, do you recall that name from any of the military records we've consulted? This is the moment when scattered pieces begin forming a pattern. What do you think, detective friend? Could Captain Sholto hold the key to this mystery? I believe, Holmes continues, we're dealing with something far more complex than a simple disappearance. The pearls, the timing, the secrecy, these suggest a secret that multiple parties have kept for a decade. Mary looks increasingly worried. Do you think my father is still alive? Holmes's expression grows gentle. Miss Morstan, I cannot offer false hope, but I can promise that we will uncover the truth, whatever it may be. The question now is, are you prepared to learn that truth, even if it proves more complicated than you expect? What would your advice be, detective friend? Sometimes the truth is more difficult than uncertainty. Is Mary prepared for what we might discover? I've lived with questions for 10 years, Mr. Holmes. I would rather face difficult truths than continue in ignorance. Brave words, Holmes approves. Then tonight we shall attend this mysterious meeting. But we go prepared for anything, including danger. As you prepare to leave, Holmes pulls you aside. Detective friend, this case feels significant. The systematic nature of those pearl deliveries, the military connection, the Indian element. I suspect we're about to uncover something that will test all our skills. What's your instinct telling you about this case? Are you ready to help Mary Morstan discover what happened to her father, even if the truth proves darker than anyone imagines? The adventure deepens, and tonight answers await at the Lyceum Theatre.